Hey, my name is Davin, and this is episode 16 of the Cart Pulse podcast. This time I'm talking with my buddy Chris Rhoad, who runs an automotive marketing and digital media company called Studio Rhoad. He spends a lot of his time in the automotive space with cars, but we've had a lot of questions come back through the podcast about sponsorship and how do I raise money with sponsors and how do I engage with sponsors. And so Chris is one of those perfect people who knows a lot about that relationship and how those transactions start. I do want to say that these aren't foolproof steps, or there's no silver bullet really to make sponsorships work. But I thought it would be good to have this discussion just to give some racers some ideas of how to get started. So let's just jump into it. All right, so Chris, what I want to do before we jump into this one is I want people to have a little bit of background about you, and that way they kind of understand where you're coming from and why you're here, and then we'll jump into kind of why we want to talk.
Sounds good. I guess it starts, I don't want to take up too much time. So long story short, grew up around cars and love racing, love cars, and went to school for my trade at the Art Institute of Atlanta was graphic design. That's what I originally went for, graphic design and advertising. And they always say that you should combine your two passions. So I did that with cars and racing and graphic design in general. And I worked at a lot of places and ended up starting my own agency. And the beginning, the agency began with providing design, websites, proposals, that type of thing for drivers. Like our target demographic was going towards drivers at any level. We worked with Joseph Newgarden and Pippa Mann and some others in the grassroots level, drifting, a lot of drifting guys. And we quickly found out that we could provide more value to the drivers by actually going upstream. And by upstream, I mean there's a flow of money that comes into motorsports and racing, and it usually comes from the sponsors themselves. So by going upstream to the sponsors and actually providing value to them, helped the drivers in a kind of secondary role. So that's what we did. We started to minimize the drivers I worked with and went towards the sponsors themselves and integrated the drivers into whatever activations we were doing with the sponsors.
Right. And one of the reasons, Chris, I wanted to have you on really is that you hit the nail on the head right away. How do you provide value to sponsors? Because I have read so many comments since we started Cart Pulse about, I wish I knew how to find sponsors. I wish I knew how sponsorship worked. It's not fair that I don't have money, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I'm not going to say that there is a silver bullet or an easy stamp, easy way to find sponsors. Like, that's a complete fallacy. Like, that's not going to be the point of this podcast. But really what I wanted to talk about was, how do you create value, right? It's much just like anything else that you want, right? Is I buy an object because it creates me value, right? I get a computer because it brings me value, right? I get a car because it gives me value. I buy a coffee because it brings me value, right? And if I don't get value from an item or a service or a good, then I don't want to give you my money for it. And so it's the same thing in racing about, how do you as the racer look at your potential sponsory and figure out ways to provide them value that they would then in change give you money, rather than you going to them saying give me money and then just standing there holding a plate.
Yeah, so I confront that question from a little bit of a business standpoint, and that's another reason we went to the companies themselves, so we could find out what they're looking for and then translate that to drivers, right? Mm-hmm. So what does every business start with in regards to sales or marketing, right? It starts with one thing and one thing only, and that's attention. Every single sale starts with attention. There's something that's called a sales funnel, and there's multiple levels within the sales funnel. And as you get to the bottom of that sales funnel, it gets a little bit tighter and a little bit harder to convert into a sale. But at the very top of it is attention. You have to get the customer's attention. Mm-hmm. That's where the drivers come in. Their goal to provide value within the context of this conversation is to get the attention of a certain demographic or a certain niche or a certain anything. Like, it has to start with attention. If you don't have the attention of at least some small group of people or tribe, then you've lost.
Totally.
Whoever has the attention has the leverage.
Totally. And and let's even, pivot that towards when you're looking at a potential, sponsor relationship, you want to start that out. You also need to be able to find a way to get the positive attention of the person that you want to work with, right? If they don't know you exist, there's no way to create a relationship, right? It's like trying to, pick up a girl on a date, right? If she doesn't know that you exist, there's no way you're going to be able to do anything. So, being able to you present yourself well, being able to have a good, like a good self-image, a good, marketed brand. If someone were to look you up, they could say, "Oh, okay, I know who he or she is," or "I see what he or she is about," or "I understand how he or she could help my business or help me. I'm interested to talk to them." Right? Is kind of the first step because a lot of people will just come up and say, "Hey, I'm so and so, and I race go-karts, and I need $10,000." And the first thing that's going to cross their mind is, "Who are you?" Right? And you're already on the back foot because it's like, wait, I don't know who you are. Why are you asking me for money? Like, you don't get very far with that approach.
So that we could actually have a conversation about syntax, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the common noun is sponsor or sponsorship or sponsoring, right? I've noticed on the business side of things that the companies are not wanting to engage in quote unquote sponsorships.
Mm.
The next step after that would be partnerships, but really what's coming down the pipe is ambassadors. That's what
Yes.
they're looking for. And it just so happens that the recording of this podcast, Davin, is 1 week after I had my an interview with the CEO of Varstone Wheels. Side note, they do several million in gross sales a year. They do a lot of quote unquote sponsors. They have a lot of ambassadors on board, and that's what they're looking for. We talked at length what they're looking for, and it wasn't sponsorships. It was ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
So to elaborate on that a little bit more, a definition of an ambassador is somebody that can really represent the core values of a company.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? It's an example would be if Varstone Wheels, for example, is looking to educate the market on wheel sizes, the actual manufacturing process, PCDs, that type of thing, offsets, etc. The ambassador for Varstone Wheels needs to publish or produce content that supports that initiative,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between an ambassador and a sponsorship or a sponsoree. A sponsoree is it's very transactional,
Yep.
and that's why they're not looking for it. And to be honest, I've had quite a few conversations with businesses in the Facebook groups that you and I are in. They'll get the sponsoree to come in, a driver to come in, and they'll give them a product in anticipation or expectation of getting something in return. And that driver just runs for the hills and they never hear from him again.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a really, really bad taste in the company's mouth when it comes to the general driver. So they're looking for something a little bit better, something that they can that's a little bit more long tail, and that's where ambassadors come in.
Well, if I can maybe tag on to the end of that to kind of simplify it for some people that I know are listening, you have to be willing to do work. Like you have to be able to be willing to make content and do work that creates value for the person that you're working with. And it's not
Dude,
the racing. It's not the racing at all. Like they don't really care how you finish in a go-kart race.
yeah,
The side pods are too small and they can't see anything. Like we've heard that 1,000 times. What they're looking for is, can you help me be a brand ambassador for my business to either promote it in front of a new audience, to generate new content in a new and interesting way, to drive attraction to it in a way that I couldn't reach before, or in a greater way that I can reach before, and also show that we as a company have the intelligence and competence to align ourselves with people who meet our core values in the appropriate way, right? So represent us well, do the work, we'll compensate you well.
yeah, absolutely. The dream is free. The hustle
Right.
is sold separately.
Exactly. And that's probably the first barrier that I see a lot of people go through is they say, give it to me. I want it. Just give it to me. They don't think about what value they can provide to the person they're going to enter in this partnership with. It's not about you. It's about them, right? It's about providing them the value. And that's how those things happen to generate to be successful relationships. But people miss that point that, like you say, they basically walk in holding a steering wheel in their hand saying, I love this, give me money so I can, fulfill my dream. And it doesn't go anywhere because what's in it for the people that you just asked money for? Nothing. It's
Hmm.
just stale. It just goes stale. Another one that kind of falls in that same category are people who do GoFundMe's, and it's typically the same conversation, the same one-sided transaction, right? Give me money so I can do my thing, and in return you get very minimal value in return, right? Like, oh, I'll give you a T-shirt or I'll give you some reward, right? Sometimes rewards are good for generating a brand, or maybe for creating that audience or creating that inclusion that you're looking for, right? Danny George is a good example of that, right? He can give out his basically his swag to his followers, and it helps and creates this like inclusive group that everybody wants to be a part of, and so it's exciting, right? But he's also built up a good reputation so that he's got something to launch off of, right? If random person A comes to me and says, "Hey, give me $20 and I'll give you a T-shirt," I don't know who you are, and your brand doesn't mean anything to me. So what's in it for me to get a T-shirt? I don't care, right? Or like, I'll give you a ride along if you give me $10,000. What? Why? Why do I want to give you $10,000? Like that incentive may not be of value to me, right? And so those don't normally go anywhere because you're assuming what value you're providing to the potential audience, not actually giving them something of value. You assume that because you have come up with this idea that other people want it, and in reality they may not want it at all.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. I think drivers have a really hard time. Honestly, like, to be fully transparent, drivers are having a hard time doing something that I'm having a hard time doing with my agency, and that's getting my foot in the door.
Hmm.
So once you do get your foot in the door, what do you do? What
Right?
is
Yeah.
what is a driver to do? And the only proposition that they have is, I want a shitload of races. I have 2,500 people on Instagram that follow me.
Hmm.
That's it.
Right. And
What do they
it's like,
do?
what are they, well, and it's you and a thousand other drivers who do the same thing. Like
Exactly.
every weekend, thousands of drivers are winning races in various series across the country. So the fact that you're winning does not matter because other people are winning too. It's the same proposition. I can interchange one driver's name who's winning for another driver's name who's winning. It's the same thing.
Huh.
So the big thing is thinking about, what skills do I have inherently within myself that could make me more attractive, right? For example, like I have more of a business background and I do some social media stuff. And
Mhm.
so when I work with potential partners, a lot of what we talk about is, well, I can help you with maybe some of my business acumen or some of my experience in the working world that might help you drive some more sales for your business. In exchange, you can help me with this, right? And that's a mutual exchange that works out well. But most of my sponsors typically don't care if I win because I'm providing them value in another way, and that's what's sustaining the relationship. It's not that I'm winning races. Because if you're just putting your positioning on just winning races, you are equally interchangeable if you don't win. That's the problem, and that's what people normally miss. And there are people who are skilled at an amazingly number of things, right? You could go to I don't know, like a carpentry shop or like a wood shop, if you're good with your hands and say, look, I can build these things made out of wood, and I can tell them that I got it from your place. And if I could just put some of your logos and branding on the sides of some of these things and show some of the sculptures I do, then people will be more interested in going to your business. I just want to be able to put your logo on the side of my go-kart.
Yeah.
So the business transaction actually had nothing to do with racing, but yet they get the added benefit of being on the side of a race cart.
Yeah.
Great. They're way more excited about that because you're driving them customers towards their sales. And that's what they care about. They're there to make money. So that's what they care about. They don't particularly care if you came in 20th with the sticker on the side of the go-kart or won the super nats at the side of the go-kart. Right? They
Yeah.
want to know what you can do to provide value for them. So,
There's such a massive amount of, I think the term is megletism in this whole thing. It is, they think that becoming a really fast driver and finishing on the podium is their ticket in. But like you said, everybody is doing the same damn thing. You can
mhm.
exchange one driver who finished first with another driver who finished first, and they don't know the difference. And
No.
and it really, it's again, it's all about these drivers present themselves in a very selfish manner. It's all about them, and
Right.
they're not quite sure how to translate their value proposition across the table because that's all they know. They know they're fast.
Mhm.
They know they're a damn good driver. They
Mhm.
know they have a certain amount of people that follow them on social media,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And those are all good things. Like, you can take
Yeah,
what I just said 5 minutes ago and just remember that, winning and going to races is the reason why we race. But that's why we
right,
are going to do this thing. It's not why a potential partner wants to work with you, right?
right.
9 times out of 10, it's not. Now, if they're in the motorsport industry and already do races, then yeah, you're already competing in their market space. So of course they want you to win because they sell tires or they sell gas or they sell cart parts or they sell wheels or whatever. And so therefore winning helps build the brand. But if they're a computer company, or if they're a meat packing place, or if they're a cereal manufacturer, or if they're a vacuum salesman, they don't care about any of those things if you win. None of those things are important, right? Can you sell me more vacuums? Can you sell me more computers? Can you sell me more meat, right? Those are the things they care about. So come up with creative ways to promote their content so that it drives more people their way and people will love you because you're helping me make money. The
Yeah.
end. Then take that money and go racing with it. Great, right? But don't just come and say, hey, Hoover Vacuum Company. I'm a racer and I like to win a bunch of races, and so you should give me money so I can win races. Because the first question will be, well, how will that sell me more vacuums?
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
So
So I tell you what do you think about us getting a little tactical on this? Let's give the listeners something that they can actually activate on. What do you
mm,
think?
I like it. Go.
Okay. I'll start with two things. There was a third, but I can't remember it because first thing.
Right.
The
Exactly.
first, I should have took some notes as you were talking because I was
Oh
writing this
well.
stuff.
Oh
All right.
well.
So the first thing was I want to touch on the ambassadors thing just very briefly. Um, Referring back to Varstone, so they're looking for people that are already participating in a niche.
Hmm.
In their case, it's wheels, it's a particular car or make, right? In this case, it might be karting, it might be the LO206 niche.
Hmm.
Somebody that's already activating and participating in that particular niche
Yep.
and not doing it with anticipation of receiving something on the back end. Like
Hmm.
it has to be authentic, right? They
Hmm.
need to be doing this because they love it.
Hmm.
And, you know,
Yeah.
whenever Varstone in particular, whenever they find out that someone that wants to be an ambassador or a partner, they find out that, you know, let me rephrase that. When the ambassador confronts Varstone and they say, if you give me product, I'll do X, Y, and Z. I'll do this stuff for you. Well, Varstone will ask them, have you done it before? Where's the proof that you've done it?
Hmm.
Ambassador doesn't have anything,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So Farstone in particular, they're looking for people that are already activating on whatever they say they're going to do.
Yep.
Just do it without any anticipation of receiving anything on the back end.
Yep. And,
Again,
and
they don't
maybe
want it to be too transactional.
totally, and maybe I can springboard off that a little bit and basically say,
Mhm.
generate your own content runway. Your content runway is the proof that you will do what you say you're going to do when you're engaging with this partner, right? So, a good example, and like this is not to big myself up, but this is just a clear example of work I've done before. I've written articles, I've made videos, I've done other training stuff. I've done a bunch of content around motorsport before I even engaged with sponsors. So when we were talking, they would look at my history and they'd say, he's well spoken, he's well written, he knows how to make a quality piece of content, it's timely, it's professional, we like him. Because I have proof that this should be the quality of work that I am going to receive from you, and he's clearly passionate about it because he did it all on his own. So he's not coming here holding an empty bag. That's helpful in order to feel more confident that this investment is going to be it's going to yield some return, right? If I had just shown up and said, hey, I love your company, would you give me a free set of wheels, and I'll make sure that people see it. It's to your earlier point, they'd look and say, I don't even know if you've done that before. Like, who knows if anyone even knows you? I don't even know if you know how to do this. So that's a bit of a
Hey,
risk.
give me a free set of wheels and I'll put your sticker on the side of my car and my hauler.
Right. Yeah. What? Like I don't even know when that became a thing. Like that was supposed to be like the easy give it to me free approach. Like,
Right.
because a lot of people always say that. Like, put your sticker on the side of my trailer. I'll put your sticker on the side of my trailer, and that'll get you a ton of sales. Well, if that was the case, I would have just been throwing stickers on the side of haulers all day.
Yeah.
You know, I would have just gone out and just start sticking haulers for
Yeah.
fun, and then I wouldn't have to talk to you because it would just
Right.
drive down the road and it'd be easy, right? But that's not how that works. So,
Yeah. At what point did that become the industry standard on how to approach a company? I'm going to put your sticker on the side of the car and the side of the on the side of the hauler, and I'm going to have all these millions of people on the side on the interstate who see your sticker on the side of my hauler, who, by the way, don't give a shit.
hmm
They're going to come and buy your stuff. They're going to
no,
come and buy your wood chair that you just built. No,
no,
man, like
no,
that's
no.
just not. It's not.
What?
It has to be targeted. It has to be specific. It has to be
Well,
within a niche. And by the way, if that shit worked, then billboard companies wouldn't be going out of business.
right, exactly. It'd be so easy because they'd just be like, "Here you go, put it on the thing, and it'd be done." The I think the problem you run into is that it's the race car hauler approach, right? So we see branded things on the sides of trailers, like let's say you go to a Formula One race and you see the Formula One trailers, right? And you see that and you say, "Oh, all I have to do is mimic that, and that'll get me what I want," right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in reality, what they're paying for when they're putting their stuff on the side of the Formula One car is television exposure, right? And so they're getting in front of millions of viewers that are like-minded and have been targeted that they buy similar things because of on a particular demographic. So that's why that works, right? But on the grassroots approach, that is not the case for like 99% of most sponsorship transactions
Yeah.
because we don't consume it the same way. Like even when people say like, "Oh, we should put karting on television and that would just get a whole bunch of people." Well, not really, because the people who are watching it on television are either A, already doing it, or B, already into motorsport. You're not generating new people who are interested in your brand. They don't care. So they'll see it and they'll go, "That's neat if I even register it." Right? And then change the channel and do something else. Where someone like me would say, "Oh yes, karting on TV, watch it. I already have 3 go-karts." So you like it's too late, bro. I'm already here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I hear you. I hear you. But I think the thing to kind of tie into that is, like you say, you have to, show that you're passionate before you start the conversation, and then create kind of a targeted approach to take your own unique skills to provide value for that potential partner and focus your attention in a way that's about providing value for them. Like everything you do should be about providing value for partner A, B, C, or D, not what will partner A, B, C, or D do for me when I win the race. Because it never goes that way, right? That person will always be sitting and going, "What have you done for me lately?" Right? And if you're not generating a reciprocal relationship, they die, they stop, right? Um, and I think probably the other third thing I would probably recommend too is be tactful and frugal about the offer you're asking for up front if you don't have a prior relationship with that sponsor, right? Because or partner, let's just say partner because that's the verbiage we're going with
Sure.
is you can't always just come up to somebody and say, "Hey, give me $100,000 so I can go buy a Porsche car and go racing." Right? That's not always going to work, right? But it may be a set of tires costs $250, and I can go and write some articles about your product that I can distribute a bunch of places. And if I was able to get $250 for those articles, that would give me a set of tires. Okay, great. Let's see where that goes. Right? It's a minimal investment for them. You should already have an approach on what you're going to do. And if you can get the amount of, defined exposure, make sure you come up with a metric that what does success look like, right? Then everybody wins. And then you can come back to them and say, "Well, I did what I said I was going to do. And, this was all great and you got the value. Maybe we can try something bigger, right? Because you've proven that you can fulfill your end of the relationship and customers are more likely to want to go through a second round with you because they know that they can count on you. They know you're reliable. They know you represent the brand well, right? So I mean that's always something is like don't turn down small transactions, especially from maybe potential partners who aren't thinking about the motorsport element. It's like we said earlier, they're not thinking about you winning races. They're thinking about selling more vacuums, right? So they may not know how much money it takes to get you from A to B, right? But what you should be focusing on is how much value can I provide for this potential partner, and then in return, I can then use that money to go racing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And I think that does a very important thing. it mitigates the risk for the company. That's the biggest. Remember, I mentioned it before that, a lot of these companies are bringing in these drivers, and the drivers are taking the product and they're just running.
Right.
They're not activating on it. They're not they're not activating on their side of the deal.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So this mitigates the risk for the company, and it does that. It shows that you're not necessarily a freeloader.
Right.
It shows that you have confidence in your program and what you're bringing to the table, and you have some kind of knowledge of business, and that goes a long way.
Well, and these partnerships are like any other relationship. Like, think about it like dating. Okay? So you can't just meet your partner once and say, "Hey, I'm Davin, go out with me," and then not do anything else ever again and expect them to always be in love with you, right? It's about reciprocating, and it's about, constantly engaging with that partner to show that you care about that relationship, right? Racing is the same way. Like, these partnerships, these racing partnerships are the same way, right? Engage frequently with the people that are helping to support you because you're providing them value, right? Don't just come when you want something. Don't just come when you need money, right? Make sure you check in with them frequently. Like, am I providing the value that you thought you were getting out front? Here are some additional ideas that I have to maybe help increase, sweeten the pot for you. Do you have any thoughts of things that you might want to see me do that I might be able to do to help you, right? Like, constantly stay engaged to let them know that, providing value is a priority for me. And it allows me to do what I want, yes, but the reason why I got engaged with you is so that I could provide you this value. Right? That will allow that, let's say pot to grow in a healthy way because there's a atmosphere of trust, right? That, will help you get the sponsorship dollars that you're looking to activate. But if you just come and say, well, I need, $5,000 for a set of tires or for tires for the whole year, and then you run away and you don't come back until the end of the year saying, well, I spent my $5,000 and I won some races. Can I have some more money? Right? They're gonna go. Unless you brought in thousands of dollars in sponsorship, they're gonna say go away, right? Because you didn't do anything for me. But if you're constantly always engaging with them, of this is what I'm doing now, this is what I've tried, da 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 da. Even if it doesn't bring in the direct sales that you were hoping for, if they see that you're like you said earlier, they see that you're passionate and they see that you're engaged, you've extended that lifeline just a little bit further, right? This person gives a shit about my company and cares if I'm successful. I want to continue to work with them because they're scrupulous people. They care. They give a damn, right? That's important to me because at the end of the day, it helps me drive sales, right? Those are the people that I want to work with because those are the people who will create the opportunity that will help me create the sales that I need, generate the sales that I need, right? That's what they're looking for. So constantly engage. I've read so many times of, like you say, the freeloader. They came for a free set of wheels and they disappeared, right? They came for a free chassis and they disappeared. They came for whatever and they disappeared. And that's no way to build up a relationship, no matter what you're doing. So if you're trying to build up sponsorship, then why would you do that?
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind, but it happens often.
Yeah.
Something that I have noticed is that, so what about the driver that doesn't have a whole lot of money? He's an introvert like myself. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know how to do any of this stuff. He doesn't know his value proposition. He doesn't know how to get his foot in the door. He doesn't know any of this stuff. So how the hell does he get money to go racing, right?
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is that there are people on the internet, on Instagram in particular and YouTube in particular, that have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, right? And then not just spam bots from India and all that crap, clickbanks in India.
Yeah, people.
Like actual followers.
Wait. So that prince does not want to give me a bunch of gold? Oh my God!
Maybe not.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, keep going.
All right, so they have this very trusting, very engaged followership. Excuse me. People like me that run agencies and do marketing, we hire them. We pay them a shitload of money to make posts and create videos and create content, right?
Yep.
So if there's a driver listening to this and they're not quite sure how to get started, they're not quite sure how to get their foot in the door, they're not sure what their value proposition is. Again, it goes back to attention. If you get attention, you have all the leverage. So if you can build a fan base that's actually engaged within a certain niche, a particular make or model of a car, a particular racing series, whatever that is, build your niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have leverage. Then you can respectfully approach companies or agencies or whatever that person is, confront them and ask and show them that you do have some leverage.
Yes.
But I can tell you this, anybody that sends me an email saying, "Oh, I have so many followers on blah blah blah, you should sponsor me," and I don't engage with them. From an agency perspective, I go and look for the people that I want to engage with. I go and
totally.
actively find them. If I'm looking for somebody within the Nissan niche or the drifting niche, I go and find them.
Yeah.
I put in the time and go and find them. So if you're already there, you're sitting there and you're activating, and you are like we mentioned before, an ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting there within that niche and you've got a lot of followers and you're engaged and you're doing it because you love the shit out of it, I will find you and I'll hire you.
Mm-hmm. 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 No, I totally get it.
You do what you love. You don't have to go through all the stresses of getting your foot in the door and writing proposals and doing all this stuff. Like, you just do what you do and we'll find you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest part is, do what you do, make people care about you by caring about them, right? And then people will find you. It is just as easy as that because like you say, you could have 100,000 followers on Instagram, but if none of them engage with you or interact with you, it doesn't fucking matter because you don't have any sort of pull that any particular partner will want to leverage because they're not doing anything. You don't have their eyeballs. You don't have their attention,
Yeah.
right? And if you can't engage with them, I use the Danny George example because he's a really good example, right? Like Danny George can reach out into his audience and say, do X, do Y, or I'm going to some place, or I'm doing a thing, and people will go there, right? His call to actions work. People show up, right? Where, and that's a rarity nowadays, where it's like, hey, can you do a thing for me? And people act. Right? That shows that you have positive influence on your community. You're not manipulating them. You're not making them do things they don't want to do. You're making them do things they want to do because you're engaging with the thing that you're all passionate about. That is massive marketing leverage, right? So you can, to keep it racer specific, basically. You could win all the races in the world, and if you're an asshole and no one likes you, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's basically all it boils down to, right? Like the guy in 20th place could be the most lovable guy in the entire paddock, and he will be more sponsorable than you are because he's got more attraction to the market space, right? He provides more value, right? And he's also a nice guy, not a dick. So that's a thing. But, the important thing is, being able to show that you're engaging with your audience because you're passionate about the things that you're doing, and that will then create the ecosystem that makes it easier to work with partners and find sponsorship, right? And that's kind of the crux of the matter. It's like, are you engaged and are you sellable? If you can do those things, you can make progress, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. A driver has to map to the culture of the company as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a bread company, and I'm not sure why I'm using a bread company, but I'll roll with it. If there's a bread company, they're not gonna hire a driver who has a mohawk and a shitload of tattoos.
Right.
Unless it's a spoof of some kind, but generally speaking, it doesn't map to the demographic that's buying, Sara Lee bread. It just doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Yeah.
So the driver needs to map to the culture of a particular company. So that actually helps the driver. They can find out the companies that they want to work with because they feel like there's an emotional connection to that particular company. That's who you focus on first. Don't worry about going towards the big guys because the big guys are getting hammered every single day.
Every day.
By drivers just like you.
Yeah, all the time. In a big group, and it sucks, and they ignore most of them, right? And I think the thing, like you say there, is if an easy thing you could do for most racers out there, go home, look at all the objects in your house, and identify with the top 5 things that you love the most in your house, and then go to companies, maybe smaller companies that work in those areas, and engage with them. Because you're already passionate about those materials. You're already passionate about those objects. You know those things, right? Outside of racing. Don't look at racing. Look at 5 things you love outside of racing and say, is there a company that is small enough that I can engage with that I can help get the ball rolling with them? Mm-hmm. Because you already know enough about that brand. You already know enough about that product to start a proper discussion, right? It could be technology and games. It could be computers. It could be I'm literally just looking around my apartment right now, right? It could be I have a bunch of racing stuff here, so this is kind of moot. But the point is, right? Like I work in business and IT technology, right? And so a lot of times when I work with a lot of sponsors or a lot of partners, the first place we always start with is either biz dev stuff, or we start with looking at social media stuff, or they look at like some of the writing I do, and can you do some marketing stuff for me? Because those are things I'm already passionate about, right? I just happen to be passionate about them within the world of motorsport, and that works out well for them. But I'd also be equally as passionate outside the world of motorsport too. And so they go, there's a business-minded guy that loves racing, and we're a business. We should be friends,
Yeah.
right? So and that's just one example. Find that match for you, and start there, because that relationship's the easiest. Within the grassroots community, there are tons of potential relationships that you can create to create that value that would let you go racing with it. Like you don't just have to look at the professional relationships and say like, well, if I'm not trying to, get Penske's attention, or if I can't get Apple's attention, or if I can't get Virgin Atlantic's attention or Vodafone's attention, like it's not even worth going for a sponsor because they're not big enough, right? That's not the way to view that at all. I'd say I'm a grassroots racer. I also have all these other amazing skills. I am just like going for a job. It's like applying for a job interview, right? I have all of these skills that would make me attractable and of value to your business. This is what I want to do with that money, but I'm here to bring you value, and focus on it like that, right? Don't look at it as, oh, I'm never going to be a professional race car driver, so I'm not going to go after sponsorship. I would say look at it as I am a person who can bring as much value as I can to the people that I engage with, regardless of whatever I use that money for. I just happen to want to use it towards racing. So yes, I have a motivation because I have a passion that requires money for me to do it, but I'm here to bring you value, and that is the discussion that you really want to have with yourself, more so than how can I get enough money to ride an Indy car.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because I think that people get that confused, right? They say, "Oh, I need money so that I can go drive a Formula car, or I need money so I can go to the Supernats, or I need money so I can go, to the next club race." And yes, you do need money to go do those things, but that should not be your primary motivator of engaging with these people. At least don't let them know that, right? At least when the people I work with, I'm transparent with them. I say, I'm here to bring value to your business because I'm very passionate about making sure that you are successful, because your success yields my success. And with that success, I can go racing with it, right? And I normally get a chuckle out of the people that I talk to, because they understand that, yeah, I'm going to use the money to buy tires, I'm going to use the money to buy gas and stuff. But, I'm not trying to just grab onto my paltry sum of money and scurry off to the racetrack and never be seen again, right? I want to engage with them and make sure that they are as successful as possible, because their success yields my success. So I will get what I want if I make sure they get what they want. If I only focus on getting what I want, nobody gets anything.
Every time me and you talk about this, it always comes down to the value proposition in some form or fashion. Now, whether that's a skill set exchange or attention or whatever it always comes down to the value proposition. More important, it comes down to what the driver can bring to the table for the company, and not the other way around.
Right.
Every story I hear, every company I talk to, 95% of their experiences is always it's always driver driven. It's what they want. And it's really frustrating. It's honestly frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I think the part that makes it actually frustrating is that people do this correctly in other walks of life, but then when they try to figure out how to get money, they mess it up. And
Yeah.
so, it's sort of like what we talked about, like finding a date, right? I know that if I want to find a date, I need to provide value to that date in order for them to be interested in me, right?
Yeah.
If I just walk in and just talk about myself and how great I am and how, badass I think I am, that date will be 15 minutes, if that. Because literally she'll just go, "Oh, sorry, not interested in you. Bye." Right? But if I walk in and I'm interested in how she is, and I'm interested about what her background is, and I find where there's an alignment there, like, "Oh, you like Star Trek? I like Star Trek. Oh, you like race cars? I like race cars." Right? Then that relationship starts to grow, right? Because I'm contributing the skills and interests that I have to provide value to the relationship, right? it's the same thing when working with a sponsor, right? You go in and you say, you sell in this area, you sell to these customers, you sell this product. I'm passionate about figuring out ways to increase those sales. I'm passionate about ways to figure out how to get more eyeballs on your product, or get more people to engage with your social media, to get more people to show up in your stores, to get more people to wear your shirts, to get more and more and more to help provide you sales. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
And they will be way more interested in that than, oh, well, I'm going to win next week's club race. What? Who cares? Like, frankly, what? Who
Yeah.
cares? Right? They don't care. I mean, if I went to a sponsor today and said, "Hey, I won every race at my local club track," they go, "Great, good for you,"
Hmm.
and that'd be the end of the discussion. They go, "That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm glad you're happy, but you're not helping me generate sales for my business, so off you go."
Yeah.
Right?
What do you think the appeal is of that? Of like that's the presentation. I've won so many races, and
Well, it's because we're racers. Like, that's what's appealing to us. Trust me, I would love to win all the races. I would love to be the fastest guy. I would love to be that guy that says, like, whenever I get in a go kart, I just drive the wheels off it and I am the fastest and I'm better than everyone because I love racing. So that to me is valuable. Fast racers to me is valuable, but it's not about me when I'm dealing with these sponsors, right? When I'm dealing with these partners, it's not about me. So my interest of the things that are interesting to me don't matter because those things aren't generating the cash that I need, to be frank, right? So a lot of people come at it what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of half cocked or backwards, right? They say, let me show you the things that are important to me, like what I'm going to get out of this relationship, and then you should give me what I want.
Mhm.
That doesn't work.
You
It
know
just
what I
doesn't.
think it is? I think it actually gets really, really visceral for us. I think it's actually in our DNA, just how our species has evolved. And I know that's super damn nerdy, but hear me out.
Okay.
Like whoever wins, there's always an alpha male or an alpha female, and whoever wins, that's who the rest of the tribe gets attracted to. That's who they go to for protection and survival, right? That over the decades and millennia, now that's become related to sports. Whoever wins at sports, whatever that sport is,
Yep.
it's embedded in our DNA to be attracted to that particular team that's winning. It makes
Yep.
us feel good. It makes us feel safe. It makes us feel like winners, right? It's visceral to us. And I think that is the only value to being a winning racing driver. The only value. Other than this very megalomaniac, very very selfish internal thing that drivers have, that we have, that we
Sure.
won something, that's great,
Sure.
fantastic, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
purely for you. The only external value to that any company could see value in is that you would attract a particular group of people
Yes.
that like winners. That's
Yes.
it. That is
Exactly. Well,
that's all I see.
and it's funny you say that because if we tie it back into racing, if I was trying to pitch to a racing business, then winning would be the thing I'd focus on because that's the thing that drives their sales. Because the more they win, the more people that see them, the more people that want to be aligned with them because they win, and therefore they make more sales because they're winning, right? Like obviously this is how this is going to work because winning drives sales. Right. But when you're looking at other potential partners to line up with that aren't in motorsport, you have to figure out how do they win. You have to figure out what's winning to them, right? And it's not you driving your go-kart. You driving your go-kart is not winning to a computer company. You driving your go-kart is not winning to an embroidery shop. You winning your go-kart is not important to a bookstore or a consulting company or a dog walking company, whatever they're called, dog walking business. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there at the end. But you get where I was going before I fell off the apple
Yeah,
cart there,
absolutely.
right? It's like you got to think about how does this business win? How does this business become successful? How do they make money? How do they want to make money? How can I help them do those things? And like you just said, they'll want to be aligned to you because you're helping them win. But if you are talking about something that's incompatible with the way they do business, they will not take 5 minutes to look at you because they are they're a veterinarian hospital. They're a veterinarian, and you come to them talking about how you win all these go kart races, and they want to bring in more puppies. So
Yeah.
like, these
Yeah.
things don't align. You're not making a good sale that aligns together, right? So therefore they just go, oh, have a nice day.
Yeah.
We're interested in puppies, and you're talking about go-karts, so
Yeah.
bye bye, right? But if you can find a way, like if you can say, like for example, veterinary hospital, I write for the local dog blogs, and I go to the dog park and I walk a ton of dogs, and I volunteer at the local kennels, and I go to all the dog trade shows and dog events all the time, and I love dogs, and I am all about dogs, and I have like a good network of people, and I would love to be able to promote your brand in front of these people so that they would come to your veterinarian because they don't know that you exist right now, allegedly so, right? Um, that would help your business. I need money for that. Like I'm paraphrasing, but you get my point,
Yes.
right? That's going to be more of an interesting conversation to them than I race a go kart, right? Now, if I can take all of that branding and put it on my go kart, add a bonus for me,
Yeah.
right? Because that's one additional thing. Like and that ties into something that I don't think a lot of people think about is like use your go kart as additional marketing. Like use your go kart as bonus marketing, not as the sole reason for this
Exactly.
conversation, right? Like I've worked with sponsors where I put my sticker on the side of their cart and I took a picture and I sent it to them to just say thank you, I appreciate your time. And they were just so stoked that it was something abnormal for them that they were like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like what?" Right? That they were just bought in. They were like, "This is cool." But I never came to them originally to be like, "Oh yeah, let's put my sticker on the side of my go kart and people will see it." That's not how that flow would have worked, right? It was just an added. It was like a thank you. It was like an added benefit. Like I appreciate this relationship so much. I put it on the side of my go kart to tell other people how great you are, right? Oh, great, thank you, right? And that was
You know,
another way to help.
that's the flip side of that whole conversation is that even if a driver does get sponsored, which is fantastic, or they jump in as an ambassador or partner or whatever, I've also seen the flip side of that happen. I've seen where the company doesn't activate on the sponsorship at all,
Right? Yeah.
nothing,
Hmm.
and that's the whole point of them jumping in. I mean, yeah, there's a sales aspect to that as well, but from a branding aspect or branding perspective, awareness perspective, the company needs to activate on the sponsorship itself. Not by activation, I mean creating content around the drivers, posting pictures and
Yep.
videos and
Yep.
blog, et cetera, right?
Yep.
Doing autograph sessions, that type of thing.
Hmm.
And that's a frustration on my end with the companies that I work with is that they don't activate on it, and it's like buying a flashlight and not buying the damn batteries for it.
Right. 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 You
It
know,
just doesn't make any sense.
let's also just talk about how do you end a relationship gracefully? And I will be the first to admit I have screwed this up a number of times. But how do you end a relationship in an elegant way that provides an opportunity for the future, right? Um, and actually, I'll take that back. I'm gonna start that again. I'm actually gonna say, I think it's actually most important to realize too that when a relationship is over, like when a partnership is over, to end it gracefully, regardless of whether it was a positive or negative experience. And I'll give you an example here. So, um, 2 or 3 years ago, I got sponsored by a local guy who, at the very beginning, the relationship was really, working out very well, and everything was going on smoothly. And then just priorities changed, and it wasn't a good fit anymore. And even though that little middle component was rough, I made sure to basically send my appreciation for the time that we had spent together, acknowledging that this wasn't a very good fit, and broke it off gracefully, right? So it's not a, basically F you, you're not my friend anymore
Yeah,
sort of thing, right? Because you want to make sure that you are not burning a bridge, right? You want to make sure that you are at least being professional in the way that you walk away from a situation just as much as you were professional when you walked into the situation. And that's something that I see a lot of racers get wrong because they sometimes forget that there's always another day in the future where the opportunity could come again. And so they think of the now and they get frustrated in the now and they say, F so and so because they don't want to sponsor me anymore, which is totally the wrong way to approach that in the first place.
yeah,
Right.
definitely.
So let's just start there. But, they take it the wrong way, or they don't provide their appreciation for the time that we did spend together. Or they don't do any of those things. And then when the, partner comes back around again and saying, hey, we're looking for another way to do sponsorship, they don't think of you anymore because you basically have given them the finger and closed the door.
Mhm.
right? So always make sure that you maintain your relationships from beginning to end as professionally as you can, because you
Mhm.
never know, who will also vouch for you. I've had sponsors who have vouched for me on behalf of other ones, where they say, we don't need Davin services anymore, or we can't afford him anymore, but he was great to work with, and you would love working with him. Great, thank you. You know, and that's a good thing to have if you can manage that, right? Because the racing world is very small, and you find out all the time that somebody knows somebody else who knows somebody else. And so if you can generate a positive reputation and a positive ecosystem of doing quality work, regardless of whether you're winning races or not, your chances of finding partners to work with, or what we've been kind of avoiding the term sponsors today, but just to keep people remembering what we're talking about, will increase because you're a likable person.
Yeah. I think it's important to realize that these are businesses. They're not Joe Schmack from down the street. They are businesses. They ebb and flow. They change. Their profit and loss statements change. They have revenue changes. A lot goes on, and it's important to realize that these companies may come into a situation where they have to make a decision to decrease their marketing revenue, or not their marketing revenue, their marketing expenditure. And 9 times out of 10, that's probably going to be the driver that gets cut first,
Hmm.
depending on the value. But the other thing is that assuming that company is still in good standing, then where the conversation becomes about retention.
Hmm.
And retention is keeping that sponsor on board, or at least close to the chest, right? At least within arm's reach.
Yep.
So to answer your question, my advice would be to pay forward. And by pay forward, I mean, even though the business transaction, the sponsorship, the ambassador program for you as a quote unquote sponsored partner driver is done, that doesn't mean you can't still work for them, at least to a certain capacity.
You're right.
And the reason I say that is because other than attention having leverage, you can also generate leverage with guilt.
Hmm.
Now, guilt, you can get guilt by giving this company, even though the transaction's done, contract's over, you can still do stuff for them over the course of the next season. And just little by little, little by little, little by little. And with every little thing you do, they get a little guilty as to why they're not working with you, right? And
Well,
guilt is very
yeah.
powerful.
Well, and also it shows commitment to the brand, even though this relationship isn't bringing me money, right?
Absolutely.
And that's something that can further a future relationship, right? Like there are a number of reasons why somebody may not want to be a sponsor with you anymore. I don't have cash right now, basically from the business perspective. I don't have cash right now, so I can't do this.
Yep.
I thought I was getting value X and I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm going to try something else. Sometimes somebody puts together a better proposal than you, right? And you get undercut. I've had that happen. Sometimes they just want to take a risk and try with somebody else. That can also happen too. But at the same time, you want to be in the game. You want to be an active player in the game to say, just because X shop doesn't sponsor me anymore doesn't mean that I want to burn their house down. Right? Like, to
Yeah.
be frank, and I've seen that 9 times out of 10, right? Like, well, so and so doesn't want to sponsor me anymore, so F them. Well, I mean, no, because right, they first of all, went out on a limb and took a risk to help you in the first place. So that should always be appreciated. And second of all, in the future, there may be an opportunity to do this again. So please don't shoot yourself in the foot. Like, don't hit yourself on the door on the way out, right? Like, these are growing and ebbing relationships that should be managed and manicured, right? Like, make sure that you are thinking about the end game, not just the now, because it's not always going to be about what you can get today. So that's episode 16 of the Cart Pulse podcast. I hope this was helpful and gave you some good ideas around sponsorship and maybe how to create more value for people in the future. If you have any questions, get a hold of us on the Cart Pulse forums, which is forums.cartpulse.com, or find us on Facebook, or find us on Twitter, or find us on Instagram. Talk to you later.